Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Trades Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We've got a special guest in the studio. I have Angelique Robb from Synkd Magazine and Synkd Live, which is happening in just a few weeks. Angelique, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Justin. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. We get to see each other all over the world and the country. We ran into each other at the airport not too long ago, randomly. So it's nice to see you again and catch up here.
Yeah, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I know we're recording this right after. It's like the first real business day of the new year. I don't think anyone worked that Friday last week, but here we are, Monday, January 5th. Well, you should be. I mean, you've got a big event coming up. I'm sure it's like round-the-clock planning right now for your Louisiana Synkd Live event coming up, or New Orleans. Well, I guess same thing.
Synkd Live in New Orleans. And yes, I mean, it's funny. Every year, we were saying this before the call started, but every year I go in December, I go, why are we doing an event in January? Oh my goodness, this is so stressful. And you're thinking about it, on Christmas Day, and it's running in the back of your mind all the time, and chasing people. Can you be there? Are you going to speak? What are you going to speak about? All this stuff. And, but then January comes, and it's such a great time of year to set your sights on the year ahead before it gets busy. Even in South Louisiana, the grass isn't really growing. Plants are kind of dormant. Everything's kind of, even in a warm climate, it's a quieter time. So really excited to have our event in New Orleans for the first time. And we're also doing something different in that we've eliminated the expo hall portion. And so it's going to we're still going to have tabletops, but a lot less. And they're hand chosen exhibitors. And it's going to be in a boutique hotel. So I'm really excited for the feeling of that coziness, and really, welcoming to new attendees, and of course to attendees who've been there before. But looking forward to it.
That is so exciting. I love that take, because I think sometimes we get so caught up with the expo hall and everyone's booths, and you end up with this like overwhelming sense of trying to meet everyone and go everywhere. And when you're in a boutique hotel too, and there's less booths, you end up just like the whole hotel becomes synced. And everybody at the bar, everybody at the restaurant, everybody in the elevator is probably there for the same event, versus like a giant convention center or a big hotel where, there's 5 events happening from all different industries. It's like you run into people there, and we're all there to do the same thing, network and learn and really build the foundation for what 2026 is going to bring. I think the event being in January gives us a chance to kind of set the table, step away from our businesses for a few days, and get in the right mindset to ultimately have a really successful year. So I'm looking very much forward to coming and attending and seeing everybody there.
Oh, thanks. So glad you can make it.
So tell us a little bit about, I don't know where to start, but maybe we start from the very beginning. Because we were talking before we went live here, and we were just talking a little bit about the background and kind of how you guys built and eventually launched Synkd Magazine. And it didn't start yesterday. It didn't start last year. This has been a mission and something you've been very passionate about for a long time. But I want to start all the way back when you went in and actually just getting out of college, you ended up going into the oil business and into engineering. And I don't think very many people know that about you. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that? What got you into that? What was like kind of the factor that moved you into that direction?
Well, it's funny because I think I'm an only child from a single parent. And I was looking at art school, and I was looking at, all kind of careers, but didn't know what I wanted to do. but math and science kind of came easy to me. And I, did that with my eyes closed kind of thing. And everybody was like, you have to be an engineer. And I'm like, what does an engineer do? What is don't even understand what an engineer does. Well, went to LSU, Louisiana State, not far from where I grew up. And I was like, okay, my mom was like, you can't be a starving artist. You have to, do well, and I can't support you, and, get a good job. And it was like, okay, all right, I'll see what engineering is like. And I got a scholarship that I got a scholarship to attend, but then also if I went into petroleum engineering, then I would get an extra scholarship. And like, okay, but I don't know, what is it? And I mean, I couldn't picture what any kind of engineering did. And I was like, am I going to be sat at a desk? What? I don't know. And so the petroleum department were like, look, we're giving out money. Just come to our department, sign up here. You'll get an extra $1,000 a semester. Just, like really the hard sell. But what I liked about it is all the other engineering disciplines, you really had to be a junior or senior before you could get a big girl job and see what see what you actually do as an engineer. But in petroleum engineering, because the oil companies were really needing people immediately, they were hiring from year one. And so my first summer, I went to university as a freshman, and I got a job my first summer at college, and I was working offshore. So I got to go in helicopters and, fly around, and even got to some of the platforms you had to swing on a rope from the boat. So you'd like Tarzan over to the the platform, so it was so much fun. It was like another world. So I got hooked because I was outside a lot, and it was really hands-on, and I was learning about, how to, what all these valves do and what are you looking for, and also that it's a lot of things, and a lot of industries boil down to this. It's people, and once you connect with people and you really try to understand people, the job starts to make sense, and really found that I was good at talking to people, learning what they did, and kind of and being more like a project manager than I would never say that I was the best engineer, but really in petroleum engineering, it became more of a project management role, and you'll start to see some similarities in our industry, but really you have all these specialists that don't know much about the other specialties. And that my job was to understand enough about all the specialties to combine it and make a holistic plan that achieves the objective safely, under budget, under time, and everybody's happy at the end and safe. And so there's a lot of similarities to, an outdoor design, build, maintain project.
Absolutely.
So that's what I did, and I did it more of the drilling side. So I love being offshore with the team that are doing the work. So I would do all the planning. So that's getting any data that you have up front, building a plan, building a budget, and then going offshore and implementing it and making the real-time decisions, because it never goes to plan.
Right.
Never, ever, 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 ever. Some things go a little bit better. Most things don't go as you expect, and some things go wrong badly. And it's how you react to that, and how you make decisions, and how you move forward. And then at the end of that, doing a recap of how you can do things better, lessons learned, and carry that forward. So that was my role. And I even did it. So I started in Houston. Well, sorry, I'm skipping ahead, but after graduation,
Yeah.
I had worked for 4 different summers for 4 different companies. And so I saw small companies, big companies, offshore drilling, onshore drilling. I worked in Alaska for a summer. That was
Oh,
fun. That's where I
wow.
started mountain biking.
That is so
On my
amazing.
time off,
What
of course.
amazing.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then my last summer I worked all over Texas and Louisiana doing really deep wells. I mean, some of the wells I was on were the deepest in the United States at the time. I don't know
Wow.
what the record is right now, but 23,000 feet below surface, directionally
Wow.
drilling wells, so really cool projects. Yeah. And so did
That is
that.
so
And
cool.
then a short personal interlude is got married to somebody I was dating in college, got divorced, left the country. I was like,
You're like, I'm out of
okay.
here.
Refresh, restart. And I moved to the UK. There was plenty of work there. So it was like, hey, I want to go somewhere. And so moved to Scotland, which is a magical country.
Yeah.
Love it. It's beautiful place. Thought I was just going for a year or two, but fell in love with the place. Got bored with my job, moved companies a few times. I've worked for a lot of different oil companies because I would get kind of restless with kind of same old, same old. So,
And was
and
the oil industry, is it like they're always hiring, so to speak, like in your position, that engineer level, they're always looking for good people?
it was fairly easy to get a new job. And I would get restless and go, okay, what else is out there? And I don't know. Well, I don't think it's like that now. But
Right.
I'm talking about 15 years ago. By the time I started having kids, I got married a second time to a Scotsman, and started having kids and stuff. And I kind of lost track of the oil industry, but it has ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's a cyclical industry. But I always thought, it stressed some people out, but it always kept me on my toes, kind of. I don't know. I kind of like that. That don't rest on your laurels, or sorry, I think that's a British phrase, but like, don't get too comfortable, because if you do get too comfortable, you're not enjoying what you're doing as
Yeah.
much. If you're and you're not pushing yourself, you're not growing. I think some people like that. Some people like to get in that space where they know everything they're doing and they're really comfortable, and that's
Yeah.
just not a place that I've ever really sat. And so I was always looking for more challenging work, doing something I'd never done before, learning it, pushing the boundaries. And then when I got on a regular project, I found a new job. I'd go to another company. So I ended up, my last job in the industry was more of a consultant company, that within that company, we were all consultants and we would get hired like as a team for a project. And so I would go, like one of the assignments was a company that was up for sale, and
Okay.
a team of us, and I was like the only drilling expert, and then you'd have a geologist, a petroleum engineer, a geophysicist, one of each expertise. We
Mm-hmm.
would get flown into a company, and we would do interviews, look at all the data, and then kind of assess that company and do a technical assessment.
Wow.
So I got to travel a lot with that job. I was in Istanbul. I was in Malaysia and Singapore. Where else? Madrid.
So you got to meet a lot of different people from different cultures, right? That had to be very interesting.
Yes. That was one of my favorite parts, is like being in Europe, is like in Aberdeen, because Aberdeen is Europe's oil capital. And so you, like, all my friends were from different countries. So you'd get to, learn little words and, obviously like cheers in multiple languages, or, just different things. You get to visit lots of countries, have friends all over the place. And yeah, it's a really exciting time. Loved that time, where you get to interact with lots of different cultures and people from different countries, and that don't speak as much English. And, it gives you a real respect for lots of different cultures, and how you can actually misinterpret people so easily, whenever they're maybe shy and you think they're arrogant, or maybe they don't speak the language, but you think that they do, just for, there's a lot of things in our own heads that we have to overcome sometimes to be good with people.
Yeah. So, right. We have to like.
Now I told you I talk a lot, so you have to rein me in.
Well, you're a great storyteller, so I'm just like fascinated with this story, because up until today, I didn't know this background of you. So this is like fascinating for me. And I think the oil industry is it's so dynamic. And you mentioned it's cyclical, and it's so up and down. Like the ups are so high and the downs are so low. I think the landscape industry, we've been blessed in a lot of ways there. We haven't had giant ups and downs. I mean, 2008 was like our last really big thing, almost 20 years ago now. But it's just so interesting to see an industry like the oil industry, the petroleum industry, that is so driven by consumer demand and oil prices and barrel prices, and supply and demand drives everything, from what I can understand.
Yeah.
You know this better than I.
Yeah. Well, but also in our industry, let's say, in Scotland, we didn't get as harsh of winters as you do in the States, and, where you could actually do proper snow work. So we had snow, but some years you wouldn't have any. So the risk of buying equipment and stuff like that, so we had the cyclical nature of the industry. Our industry is more, each year it's cyclical. If you look at, if you take snow out of the equation, kind of thing,
Absolutely. Oh, it's very seasonal. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's seasonal. So there's a lot of, and in the oil industry, I also thought many times, gosh, this could work so much easier. Like, why we're almost making it harder sometimes than it needs to be. And, and I thought, oh, it's such a dysfunctional industry. And then I came into the landscape industry, and then it was like, this is dysfunctional in a different way, but with my engineering hat on, I see that as opportunity. I think that people can easily make things harder than it actually is, and whether that's not using the tools around you, or technology, or hiring the wrong people, having the wrong team. Often we make things more complicated than they need to be, and then they become harder. So, but so much opportunity in our industry, isn't there? I mean, with so many, 87% of the businesses in our industry being 9 employees or less.
Wow,
it just
I
shows
didn't know that. That's a great stat.
Well, and like 75% are 4 or less.
Wow.
75% of 700,000 businesses in the U.S. I mean, that's where we need a lot of help. And when you look at the big companies, they're really big in terms of revenue and people, and it feels to me like the industry. Now, I know more about the industry in the U.S. than I do about the U.K., but I guess I lived that 0 to 11 employee time in the U.K., and from the research and the interviews that we've had here in the U.S., it is very similar. And I think that's like the hardest time. It's where you're building your foundation, where you're getting the right people, the right processes. What do you want your company to be? So that time is very tumultuous, and that's where 75% of our companies are.
Yeah.
It says a lot about what needs fixing or opening people's minds up to,
Yeah.
Fixing makes it sound bad, and I don't want it to sound negative. It's a tough spot,
Yeah. I call it the superhero mode, that like 0 to 40 employees. You're the founder, the CEO, the lead designer, the lead
Everything.
foreman, you're everything. And as you grow, you have to delegate and hire people. And I think that's where the most of the companies struggle is they create what they think are processes that are going to help them grow, but they create all this complexity just because they want to feel comfortable at night and they want to sleep better knowing that they have control of everything. But at some point, you really have to start to like decentralize decision-making and hand off responsibilities. And I think that's where most people hit that 5-6 employee mark, and they kind of hit a wall there because it's like, man, I can't be at every job site every day now. I can't meet with every client. That I have to have a salesperson, and that's a really hard jump.
It's uncomfortable
to go to the next level.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. So
And
let me ask you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to kind of ask, and we're going to jump around a bit. So, this is all the listeners, you got to kind of jump into our brain here. But I think Angelique and I both like to work the same. When you guys started Synkd and you came up with that name, what's like, I think there's some connection here, but like, what was the purpose of coming up with the name Synkd, and what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the industry?
Well, and I don't know if this is that well known either, but it wasn't my idea to start this in the U.S. I was approached by the owners of Pro Landscaper and Futurescape. You'd be great to launch our brand. And I said, oh gosh, I never would have thought to start something like this. I've never, I can't write, like, what? And they were like, no, you should, because you have the background of building your own business. And I had met them at a national trades award ceremony where we were up for a national award, and I thought that was kind of a funny suggestion. And it was me and my husband there in London, and they mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, kind of laughed. And then they kept following up with me, and I was like, look, we've made this decision to move my little kids. My kids were 7 and 11 at the time, and they didn't know anything except for living in Scotland. And so really, it was kind of a surprise to the kids. And so we were like, I said, I can't think of anything until I get my family settled.
And you're moving from Scotland back to the States, back to Louisiana.
Back to Louisiana. It's funny. We were both just kind of quitting our jobs and selling the house and buying a house in Louisiana, and we're just going to figure it out. My mom lives in Louisiana, and we thought, well, the kids are young enough. They need to see my mom more.
Yeah.
We don't know where we're going to live, so let's just start here and she can take care of the kids while we figure out what our jobs are going to be. My husband is in offshore wind. So he knew he'd either be on the East Coast or West Coast or like, we didn't know. Yeah. So we thought, oh, we'll move here temporarily. And then within 6 months, COVID hit.
Wow.
But in that 6 months,
wow.
yeah. So it's funny. So, 3 months in, it took that long to get our kids sorted. Lots of hurricanes out in the Atlantic meant that our furniture took like a month longer to get over. So we were like in camping chairs and blow up mattresses in this house that we bought. So it was all very haphazard, living situation. And then the guys from the UK said, hey, let's meet, and I was like, oh, okay, let me book a flight. I spent a couple weeks in London meeting with them, figuring out how they ran the business to see if I would launch it. But in that time, I started doing things with the Louisiana Nursery and Landscape Association here in Louisiana. I went to a couple events in Texas. I was starting to do my homework. And really, every time I talked to somebody and I was like, this is about bringing design, build, and maintain together. And every time I would say that, they would go, oh my goodness, we've been trying to do that for 30 years. Oh, the industry used to be more connected. Now it's so disconnected. Nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to, So, and it's funny because I guess I didn't really in those early days talk about the name of it so much and, being pro landscaper. And it's funny that, went to London, was like, okay, they run things this way. What's the business arrangement? The business arrangement was basically me licensing the brand. So we weren't going into business together. I didn't have to run it the way they ran their business and vice versa. I had autonomy. It was about just the name, the templates, the layout. This is how we do things. So registered the company name the week that Massachusetts was the first state to declare a state of emergency due to COVID. The reason I know that is because my husband was in Massachusetts on his first day of work.
My gosh.
He was in Boston going, I don't know what's going on here. But they shut the office down on his first day. And I was like, gosh. Are you going to be able to leave Massachusetts? I mean, what are you, are they, come home and anyway. So again, bizarre, how it was all a bit crazy those first days. And then by the time it actually came to Louisiana, it was more like end of April. But, so he was working from home. I had registered the company name, already started putting together the first issue or so, but then went, okay, kids are at home. Whoa, we have to figure this out. Everybody's wiping down their groceries with Clorox wipes and what do we do? So, so really I didn't launch it on the first publication until January 2021. But it's almost like as soon as I started calling people and saying, hey, I'm from Pro Landscaper, what I noticed is that if they were a landscape architect, usually they hung up before I could even explain. If they were a deck builder, a deck craftsman, if they were outdoor lighting specialist, the word landscaper really is a word in the U.S. that means almost groundskeeper. Or if I had to equate it to another word. And it's funny, and that's even in the industry. And there's a little bit of that in the UK, but not near as much as here. And so I was thinking, oh my goodness, we need a new name for this. This is really for me, the mission was that, as I explained as an engineer, I had all these silos of I had a mud engineer, a drill string expert. I had, a cement engineer. I had all these silos. And as the project manager, I was the person that was like the red thread that knew enough about all of the silos to make a decision that helped the project be as good as it could be.
Yeah.
Really, I feel like in our industry, we don't do that enough. And I have my theories. I'd love to hear your theory on it, Justin. But what I was thinking it is that because we have an industry that's made up of small businesses, when you're a small business, you can't do everything. You have to niche down to then grow, become really good, become profitable, to scale that business. However, what clients want, and whether that is, an HOA, whether it's a homeowner, whether it's a corporation, they want everything outside managed by one person so that they get that holistic, good quality. You don't spend money on one thing that hurts another thing. But because of the makeup of our industry, we had too many companies that weren't even profitable, much less could grow. We need our small businesses to be successful and grow and scale. So they have to be niche. But I see, again, an opportunity in that for those companies that want to project manage or landscape architect or landscape designer to project manage all of the specialties. Really, that's what I did. I had employees in Scotland, but I had a lot of subs. And those subs, like a deck builder, I mean, I had masonry guys on my team all the time because you'd dig a hole and you'd find granite everywhere you go. Like at first when we built a house there, and I'd dig a hole and like, oh, look at these beautiful granite stones, and like my stone guy would go, oh my goodness, she's like, there's a million of those.
Yeah.
Stop digging up stones and putting them aside. Like that's what our soil's made of. But we really need somebody. We need people that can take the best of the specialists and put them together to form unique spaces that don't compromise. You build a wall and it stops the natural water flow, and then you make one area too wet, one area too dry. Like there's so much that needs to be looked at holistically, and get it, each part done to a high standard. It takes a lot of work though to do that, and you do have to know a lot about those specialties. But I think that's when you're able to grow and scale, because then one point of responsibility for the client, that's where the jump comes. That's where the middle's missing out of our industry, is how we do that. And I think it can be on a small scale. It could be a small business partnering with 3 other businesses in that town, to go, well, I'm better at masonry work. What are you better at? And getting those companies, those smaller companies that you can trust and depend on. But and one person holds the responsibility at the end of the day. So
it takes a leader in that zone to kind of step up and say, hey, I'll be the one to take on the responsibility and write the contracts and do the invoicing and kind of run the back end administrative part of the job, so the customer can have like one point of reference and one point of contact. And what we've found is no matter how large that we've grown, if anything, the larger we've gotten, the more the larger network we've grown, and the more subcontractors we use, and the more teams we bring in to do the specialty work. Like we don't build fences, even though we have carpenters on hand. We rarely build decks. Our carpenters are usually doing pergolas because that's like what they're really good at. And
The more
you know,
complicated.
yeah. And there's so many great like concrete companies out there. We've not done as much in-house concrete because we will just partner with a great concrete company. And so instead of our team being the jack of all trades, they can become really, really good at a few things plus project management. And now we can create a network with a bunch of other, what's funny is like we use a lot of landscape companies as subcontractors because even though they call themselves ABC Landscaping, they're really, really good at one specific trade. Maybe they're really good at pavers or they're really good at building pools or one thing or another. And we've found that. And now we're like, hey, why don't you guys do this? We'll do that. And we'll take the responsibility and contract with the client. And when you do that, you just open yourself up to so much more uniformity and connectiveness within the community rather than being competitors. It's like you're partners now. Yeah. And I think that's been a really cool trend that we've seen in our community at least. And I think I've seen it across the country.
I think we need it more places. And I think it's time to do away with the scarcity mindset because that's what's driven us apart. And we actually need our companies, our local companies in our local area, just like what you've said. I mean, that helps you and it helps them, you know?
Yeah.
Them doing work for you in your area is great for everybody. And there's so much work out there. And then the people that maybe aren't doing a quality job, you know, they'll either join somebody who does, or they can do what they're good at. I think everybody is good at something, you know? It's just when you try to spread yourself too thin, then you're not good at anything. And that's what you have a tendency to do as a small company because you're maybe afraid of your funnel running dry.
Yeah.
Or you have a really good client and you want to take care of them. And that's great, but not if you're going to do a subpar job. It could ruin your reputation with like a good client.
If you got into business and you're 4, 5, 6 employees, you're doing something right. Like if you started at some point, at some point you had really good things happening and you were doing a great job, and then it started to leak because exactly what you said, you started spreading yourself too thin, trying to do everything and not being good at anything. And if you focus on what you're really good at and then, you know, partner with your quote unquote competitors, it's amazing what you can unlock. And I think not only is there a lot of work out there, there's a lot of homeowners specifically who have become frustrated with contractors to the point where they just gave up on doing their job. And they just said, you know, I'm just not going to do this backyard remodel after all. I'm just going to be okay. Maybe I'll redo my kitchen, because the landscaping industry was so hard to work with. No one would call me back and so on and so forth. And so I do think there's so much work out there for the people who want to get out and get it.
Yeah.
Trusted.
And, and who communicate, who want to be that personable contact with the client. And you know, want to lead the way and have that team behind them to fulfill the work. So we kind of got off topic. Sorry, I can't even remember where. But yeah, I know. Well, but this is it. Our industry has so much potential. So, we were talking about naming the company.
Synkd.
And so it's funny, after a year of, you know, when I was licensing pro landscaper, it was just in the Southeast. So we hadn't expanded from the Southeast yet. And I was like, and people were calling us going, you come into the Midwest, you know, come into, you know, and I was like, we're not ready. And I knew something had to be done about the name. I wanted our first funny story is I had people calling me about quoting on patios because they thought a landscape company. They called me for
Pro landscaper, yeah.
yeah, like we're a landscape company. I had one guy that called me from a nursing home. I can't remember where, because he used to own a landscape company, and he swore to me that he'd been a subscriber of ours for like all his career. And I was like, sir, I'm so sorry, but we've only been in existence for less than a year. But we were getting confused with another publication. I don't really know which one, but
Yeah.
again, the mission is to think wide about the specialties. And if the door is shutting in our face before we can explain, I felt like there's enough publications. There's enough, we want to be something more than that. We physically want to help business owners like be inspired about doing things different, better. I'm really big on, because I know there's a lot of business only help, and I don't want it to sound like, but there's business coaches, there's peer groups, there's so much out there. One of the things that I also feel like we are helping with and we can help is those technical solutions. When you look broadly at the categories like stormwater management and how you can actually make it worse on a property through construction, through design, construction, and maintenance, you can make a property much worse off. It's thinking about those intricacies of the products you're using. The products that I've been using for 20 years in Europe are just on the ground here over in the last few years. German products that have been, have 100 years behind them are only just coming to the States, so there's a lot of nature-based thinking and technical products and solutions that are very new to the US that we've been using for decades in Europe. So I feel like there's that gap. So there's a technical gap that runs across civil engineering, landscape architecture, construction, maintenance, horticulture. Like in Scotland, if somebody came to me with my grass is too wet here, and I would look at the property and go, well, yes, because, everything drains to this point. So first off, like maybe grass isn't the best solution, but do you want to stop the water further up? Like there's like 100 solutions there, depending on what you want to spend. Do you want underground drainage? Well, that's a lot more expensive than doing like a French drain and some plants and some ways to slow down the water. So there's more to the picture, and I feel like there's a lot more in design that could be done, and construction and maintenance, because it's all one picture really, with unique materials in our spaces. And I love finding those solutions, and that's kind of, the vendors at our events, they usually have permeable landscape options or products. Stormwater management, because it's not just about stormwater management, it's about not starving our trees and not doing irrigation when you don't need it if you design it differently, or different irrigation, so like those are complicated solutions. But you also need to frame it in a business way, Right. So I also feel like, a lot of contractors don't do design or maybe don't do design, or don't understand how it can be used as a tool to, help the drainage in a different way, or, so I think that there's a lot there to unpack. And so we want to synchronize all of the specialties, because the more one specialty knows about the other specialties, the better you can do your job, and the better you can see
Totally.
where you fit in the puzzle pieces in the industry and get the help that you need. And so and all of that ultimately delivers a higher quality project. It gives us it gives that company a better reputation, but it also gives our entire industry a better reputation, which then inspires a new generation to come into our industry, and it all feeds itself. So synchronized, weird word, because I was like, it has to be short, spelled funny, and mean that we want to bring everybody under one roof.
Yeah. A lot of boxes to check.
So, Synkd, yeah. And I mean, we have some people go skinked or synked or skinked. Yeah, what are they trying to say? But really, it's to open the door to conversations. Psych. Yeah, I know. So, but I wanted it to be distinctive and stand out and make people go, "Excuse me, what is that?" Or "What? I don't understand." Or because the more we talk about the problems in our industry, not to be negative, but the more we talk about them, that's getting down the road to solving them. And so really we try to in the company show off projects that are complicated, or solve some kind of challenge, or companies that are maybe changing how they do things. They used to do normal maintenance. Now they're incorporating a bit of more environmentally sensitive kind of maintenance to see how it goes. You guys are implementing battery. How has that affected your company? And I think that's a story I'd love to tell. We need to do that for an upcoming issue, huh?
Well, we just came up on a...
That is good. That's even better, actually, to have those data points to say, where has it actually nudged you above the competition? And, are you able to charge more? Are you maybe more likely to win jobs? Or, how it's changed your business too. I think that's a year on is where you start to see that, and it manifests more change. And so...
Oh, you do. And
yeah.
It's a good segue into bringing back full circle the event coming up in a few weeks.
Yes.
I'm going to be speaking there, which I'm really excited about.
What?
And it's a lot about what you're talking about. It's like this idea of how do we become different, and how do we stand out from the crowd. And one really important indicator for me has been the private equity influx into our industry, because private equity comes into an industry where they see opportunity, and they see a fragmented market with recurring revenue, a lot of strong foundation in terms of the industry foundation, and something they can build upon. And then ultimately they can exit for a good return to their shareholders, and then they go on to their next project. And nothing against them. That's their model. But what it teaches us is that we are in an industry that is ripe for opportunity. And if we can understand the opportunity through the lens of a private equity analyst, and we can unpack that strategy and then implement it ourselves, we can have 3, 4, 5 times the impact and 20 times the return that they can, because we know this industry better than any analyst could ever. Those who have grown up and been through what you and I have been through of building businesses. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And I also think you become blinded to it when you're in it. And so again, because we get used to doing things a certain way, and this is any industry and any person, you get used to doing things in a certain way, and it is hard to see how to do it differently. So that's where private equity, they've seen us as an opportunity. Yeah, why can't we do it ourselves? Yeah. I love
And
that. And that's what you're going to be speaking on.
Yes. And that's what I call sweat equity. So private equity invests capital to get a return. My methodology, my approach is called sweat equity, where we invest sweat or our own hard work to get a return. And we've been doing that for years, but we've been getting this kind of like shitty return on our time because we aren't really working on the right things in our business. So we're working really, really hard. And although we're creating good lives for many of our families, we're not creating the great lives for our team members and our communities and our families that I think we can ultimately get to. And when you look at the top 100 landscape companies in the country that Lawn and Landscape and Landscape Management publish every year, you kind of go, wow, how did they do that? How'd they get to 50 million, 70 million, 100 million in revenue? And it's not that complicated, but it's a lot of hard work. And one of the things that is going to change is it's becoming less complicated to scale businesses in the future because the accessibility to automation, the accessibility to technology, and the sharing of resources, what Synkd brings together is all this learning into one place where you can go through and you can learn from all your peers and you can understand those different aspects of a business and the industry and then leverage those to build your business bigger or just build it better. And so the big thing about 2026, have more time off, like do whatever you want with that, right?
Whatever.
And pour back into the people you love and care about. And so what we're going to be talking about is how to do that. How do you leverage this massive amount of innovation and change and uncertainty that is the future? And how do you apply it to your business today? And we call that the disruptor's advantage. And we're going to be unpacking what that is, why it's important, and then how specifically. I'm going to spend a lot of time on giving people exact recipes on how to go back and implement this into your businesses so you can get a outsized return on your time. Because if you can spend an hour and generate $1,000 in value, awesome. If you can spend an hour and generate $10,000 in value, even better. And if we can find a way to invest an hour and get $100,000 in value, even better. And so we're just going to keep pushing the limits as to what could we accomplish. And I think the landscape industry, we're just at the beginning of what we're going to ultimately see as the next big movement in our economy. Our trades, the blue collar businesses, the trades and the landscape industry, I think it's just going to boom over the next 10 years. I'm so excited for it. And I'm excited to have like relationships with people like you, Angelique, where you are pushing the boundary and really bringing everyone together. So, hats off to what you've pushed through, all the challenges that you've gone through to get to where you are today with this mission of raising the bar and this mission of really bringing everybody together. So I'm excited for it.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you coming to our events and sharing your knowledge because it takes leaders that are willing to open their playbook, and be open to share. There's a lot of leaders out there that go, oh, I'm not going to tell you my secrets. And that's fine. You can be that way.
Yeah.
But the people that will share will learn and they will give back tenfold and it will help everybody. And hopefully you feel this way, but you come and share and hopefully you get as much as you give or more, from others in the room. And that's what makes it a community. So thank you for being involved. And
yeah. Well,
good to
by
see
far, I can't wait to be there. And I do consider myself a lifelong learner. And I don't think I have very much things figured out. I figured a few things out and I like to share those, but ultimately it's all about how can I learn and how can we bring some stuff back and implement that and test it and experiment with it and see where it goes. And I think that's the fun part of where we're at right now is this opportunity to experiment.
Yeah. And I think you're right. We're in a great place in our industry. There's a lot of tools that help us do our jobs better, quicker, or streamline it. But people sharing everything. And if you take advantage of all these things, you know, it's a challenge to not be successful if you don't, if you know, if you don't, did I say that right?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
If you're open to change and evolve and learn from people, you will be successful. There's no doubt in my mind. And it's a great place to be.
So with that, remind us of the dates again. When is the event?
Oh, it's January 28th through 30th in New Orleans. We're at the Barnett Hotel, which is a boutique hotel on Carondelet. It's in the middle of the quarter, all the goings on. We have a tour of Mullen that is optional extra that is going on January 28th. After that, at 4:00 in the afternoon, we have a party, a welcome reception at the Barnett Hotel with music and drinks. And then the Disruptor Social is after that. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, we rented out a really cool bar, and it's going to be a fun event. We've got some activities and some fun stuff going on. And it'll be from, I think, 7:30, whenever, after the reception ends around 7, and then make our way over to the after hours party, the Disruptor Social, free food, free drinks, and a fun night of just further connection. And then boom, we blast off the next day into the event.
The next day. Yeah. And we have, you're speaking, Marcus Sheridan is speaking, lots of others, too many to name.
And it's a stacked list.
And we have a VIP dinner and a casual dinner that evening. And then we have another half day. And then, you know what? I mean, I didn't even plan it around this, but so Mardi Gras season, Mardi Gras is in February, but the season starts in January, and it's already started. And there's even a Mardi Gras parade on the Friday night. So if people feel like staying, it's Crew Bohème, and it's around Frenchman Street, which is a cool little area of bars and restaurants. And it's a really creative Mardi Gras parade that Friday night. So it starts at 6:30. So those people that want to hang around and stay for it, I will be there. So you can get a taste of Mardi Gras without having to go, during crazy season.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of perfect. You can go to the event, have fun, and then stay the weekend and enjoy New Orleans and just have a great time. Great location. I'm super excited for this. So
have you been to New Orleans before?
I have not. This will be my first time, which I've never been, which is crazy. I've traveled all over the States. This is one of the only areas I haven't been yet. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well,
right?
You're going to stay the weekend? Or...
Yeah, we're going to stay and at least Friday night.
Okay.
We got to stay Friday night. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Stay for the Mardi Gras parade, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, I'll have to think of some other things that you have to see while you're there.
Okay.
I think I'll put a little tourist guide together, too.
Do that for me. I would love, no, seriously, I would love that. I know. I can't believe I haven't been. I was just talking to Drew about it, and he's like, you really haven't been? I was like, no. So
it's a
thank you for giving me an excuse.
Place. Oh, yeah. Hey, anytime. Tell me where else you want to go for next year.
Perfect. Oh, it's great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Angelique. And hey, we end every episode with a trade secret, and I got to get yours. I'm not going to let you go without it. So before we wrap up, what's a trade secret you want to share here on the Trade Stock Podcast?
So I think, just like I said with the how you get blinded when you're in the industry and you expect things to be a certain way, I think everyone can teach you something. So it doesn't matter how inexperienced, experienced, age, anything. I think everyone has something to teach you. So if you approach your job like that, again, no matter what job you're doing, you will learn something every day. And so that's what I like to think, and why I like meeting so many people and all these interviews and podcasts that I do is like, you know, kind of like you said, you're a lifelong learner. I get really excited about people teaching me something that I never saw it coming, you know? So
yeah, approach everything with that open mindset. I love that. That is such a great way to end the episode. And thank you for sharing your story too. That was so cool to hear how you got started, and what a crazy 10, 15 years you had there, jumping all the way all around the world. Like literally, that's so cool. And you bring that diversity. Well, it's maybe
more 20 or
yeah.
Show my age, but
awesome. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in New Orleans, and hopefully a lot of other listeners there too. And why don't we wrap it there? So thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
Okay. See you guys.
See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.